hosted by 4-time Emmy-nominated producer Frank Pace, with retired New York City firefighter and Vietnam vet Billy O'Connor.
If you get your glass of water. Laughing at me.
We're on the air, you stupid mook. I mean, you Mick.
What?
Mick, we're on the air.
Mick, you're the stupid.
You're asking for water. You're asking for all sorts of stuff. We're on the air.
Well, I'm the stupid Mick. You're the stupid mook. I'm just trying to get the dry patches off my mouth.
And
you guys tell me I always look like a fump in the mouth.
Yeah, you do. And there's Derek Harris is joining us, the third man in the booth. Nice to have you, Derek, again.
Lovely fellas. Good to see you guys both. You look so young. You guys look so young and vibrant.
Yeah.
We're going to have to give him a pejorative nickname. We got to come up with a nickname for him. If you're going to be the Mook and I'm going to be the Mick, the mic is already there, we're going to have to.
He's the Muck. Let him be the Muck.
Yes.
I don't want to confuse.
Well,
by the way,
also for we don't want racists giving me names. So
yeah. That's for sure. That's for sure. So Billy's out.
I'm recovering.
Tell Jenny we're doing the show to stop talking to you.
Yes, Jenny, we're doing a show. Stop talking to us. We can hear you.
Okay, we got
You let me know when you're starting and
we're gonna.
Hey, I came up with a little something for you, Derek. You got a picture we can put up for us? Oh, the weather outside is frightful.
You son of a bitch.
It's no place to go.
No place to go.
Let it snow. Where the fuck do you live in California?
It's amazing, right? I'm an hour and a half from you, and I got 2 feet of snow outside my door right now. 2 feet. And more coming.
But how much do you like snow?
I hate snow. I hate it. And my wife thinks it's the most wonderful thing that ever happened. She goes, "Oh, look, it's a winter wonderland. It's beautiful out there. Look how gorgeous." Meanwhile, I mean, I'm from New York, and being a firefighter, the cold is the worst thing you can imagine. I mean, plus we get a lot more work. When we were on a job during the winter, we get a lot more work, a lot more fires because we worked in poor neighborhoods, and they use space heaters, and space heaters are prone to tip over and cause a fire. So we used to have a lot of work, and when it's cold. And basically, firemen are glorified laborers. I mean, let's face it, that's all we are. You're lugging the hose, you're forcing doors, and the hose gets all frozen up.
Organized labor with a lot of guts.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's moments. We have our moments, but it's like being a cop. Man, if you're a cop, and then you see these cop shows, and they're pulling their guns and they're shooting it out every 20 minutes. Well, they're not going to show you a guy sitting in a car for 8 hours drinking coffee and eating donuts. I mean, it's the same thing with firefighter shows. I mean, when I look at shows about firefighters, if the job was like that, there'd be nobody on it. I mean, especially with the Backdraft. That movie was absolutely ridiculous. I mean, guys running through burning buildings with their coat open, swinging an axe with no mask on. I mean, 99% of the job is routine, but it's the 1% that you get paid for. That's the 1% when you think you're going to die.
Wait a second, Billy. You were on how many calls a year?
Oh, back in the day, in the 70s, we were doing 14,000 runs a year.
14,000 runs a year, 365 days. How can it be 99% nothing?
Well, yeah, I might have exaggerated. But you know what? We look at things like well, you know what? When you're doing that much work and you pull up to a vacant, say it's a vacant, which we had a lot of because the South Bronx was burning at the time, and we had a ton of vacants. It looked almost like Dresden after the fire bombings. And if you pull up to a vacant, fire could be blowing out 40 windows. And we think that's routine because we're not going in. We're just going to put up a bucket and knock the hell out of it. Somebody might go in on a floor below the fire thinking it might be squatters, or crack addicts or something that we got to grab and get them out of there. But other than that too much is routine. Car fires, they're routine. That's not even we don't even look at that like a job. And another thing, Every car fire I ever saw on television blows up. They always blow up. Always. I have been to 500 car fires. I have never seen one blow up, ever, ever. No matter how bad it burns, it melts. But we got to force the trunk. After we put the fire out, which takes 5 minutes, we just knock it down. Then we got to pop the trunk because in the neighborhood we were in, bodies, exactly. They're always looking for a murder. There could be a murder involved in it, and that's why they set fire to the car.
Wow.
But I'll tell you a funny story. When I was...
Before you tell me that funny story, our guest today is Hillary Bailey Smith. She's a Emmy soap opera star, actress, producer. She's a lot of fun. She's one of the women I always wanted, but I was afraid I could never catch him. So,
and if you did catch him, what happens then?
I don't know what to do with her anyway. So, she's going to be joining us a little while. But now your funny story.
Well, obviously I worked in the South Bronx, right? So there was a lot of chop shops around the South Bronx, where they'd steal cars and do what they had to do for parts, So I had this old Cadillac. I mean, everybody had a ghetto car. And I had this old 75 Cadillac, a real...
What did you find? Here we go, Derek. What do you define as a ghetto car?
Well, a car that's an old bomb of a car that if it gets broken into, that nobody's going to want to steal because you couldn't bring a good car down to South Bronx because they would get stolen a lot, or they'd break into them for drugs, money. So I had this old ghetto car, right? Cadillac. I think I paid $1,000 for it.
This
right?
is when I start posturing when you start using your ghetto.
Yeah. Well, it's a Cadillac. Why couldn't it be a Sopranos car? Why has it got to be a ghetto car?
Well, actually, in our day, we used to call it a Jew canoe. It was a real long caddy, So anyway, I was out. I only had the thing about 2 weeks, and I had paid $1,000 for it. So it was a real bomb, but I got loaded one night. I mean, loaded. And I was driving the Cadillac home, and I hit a wall. I mean, that's how drunk I was. I hit a wall, and I totaled this thing. I mean, I destroyed it. So I said, okay, man, I can't afford to buy another car right now. So I got to do an insurance job on this thing. I got to claim insurance. So I bring it down to the firehouse. And I wait till about 1 o'clock in the morning, and I grab a radio. And I tell the guy in the house watch, look, if we get a run, call me right away. I'm gonna drive this car over to where the chop shops are and let them do a number on it because I'm gonna claim an insurance job, right? So I drive it 3 blocks away, park it by the chop shops. And this is 1 o'clock in the morning. And I jog back to the firehouse, right? And I get back to the firehouse. I said, okay, that car will be decimated by tomorrow morning. No worries. Then I realized, holy mackerel, man. I drove it over there and I didn't pull the ignition with a Bam Bam. So
what's a Bam Bam? What's a Bam Bam?
A Bam Bam is what they use to pull the ignitions out of cars when they steal them. It's a tool that they screw it in and just pulls the whole ignition out. Then they hot wire. That's what they do.
I don't want to interrupt the story, but I want to understand whether or not you were. How do you know about these things? Were you like a car thief at one point?
Up in the Bronx.
No, because in the firehouse we had Bam Bams. I mean, we had all those tools. Okay. We also have the Slim Jims that you got to break into cars for. When you go down through the window with a Slim Jim because we had to get into the cars. But anyway, I digress. So now I get back to the firehouse and I said, "Oh man, I forgot to pull the ignition. If the cops find the car, they're gonna know that how did it get here? It had to be driven here." I said, "I got to go back." So I tell the guy in the house watch, "I got to go back." I said, "If you get anything, call me right away." So now I'm jogging back. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I get there at 1:15, and I'm worried about the ignition. Well, I'm telling you, the car was up on 4 milk crates. Wow. There was no ignition. There was no ignition. There was no dashboard. There was no interior. All the seats were missing. I mean, there was totally Richard Petty's pit crew couldn't have did a job as fast on this, right, on his car. It was decimated. So I run back to the firehouse. I said, cool, great, I'm good. Now, naturally, in the morning, I'm going to report the car stolen. So I walk into the 4-0 precinct, and I says, hey, how you doing? I'm a fireman around the corner, you know. I says, my Cadillac got stolen last night. Cop says, no problem. He says, fill out it's a stolen car report, and we'll get to you. So now as I'm filling out the report, I says, let me be clever here, you know. And I say, like I'm really concerned about the car, you know. And I look up at the cop at the desk, and I says, hey, by the way, I says, what's the chances you're going to be able to find the car? And the cop starts laughing. He goes, hey, man, hey, listen to this fireman. This fireman wants to know what's the chances we're going to find this car. Can you believe this guy? He goes, I mean, the car was decimated in 15 minutes, man. They operate fast, boy, I tell you.
Well,
just stripped.
My friend Tony O'Dell is an actor. He was one of the stars of Head of the Class. And he had a pretty nice BMW. And he had his acting photos, his headshots in the back of the car. So one day his car was stolen and it was decimated. The only thing, it was up on fours. The seats were gone. Everything was gone except his head seats, his head photos. that was the worst thing that could have done to him as an actor, would leave the headshot.
That's great. That's like the old joke about the guy who's the bagpiper, and he goes down to the Paddy's Day parade, and he's walking towards the parade, and he says, oh my God, I left my bagpipes in the car and the windows down. So he ran back to his car, but it was too late. Somebody had thrown another set of bagpipes in there.
Oh, Billy, this week is Super Bowl week. We'll save our picks. But what do you have to tell us about gambling during Super Bowl week? The biggest super spreader event of the year. It may be bigger than Christmas holiday.
For spreading COVID, you mean?
Yeah, because everybody's going to have everybody over their house to watch the game.
People are unbelievable. Yeah, you're probably right. It probably will be. I got to tell you, nowadays, if you're a bookie, the Super Bowl, of course, is a windfall. Everybody bets the Super Bowl. I mean, FBI agents have boxes, have pools. Priests bet the Super Bowl. Everybody bets the Super Bowl. Everybody. It's a national holiday. But in my day, now everything's offshore, so they don't have to worry about it. All the bookmaking outfits are offshore. It's all computerized. In my day, we took the action in the apartment. And Super Bowl Sunday was a scary day for bookmakers because that's the day that all the busts go down. And the reason the busts go down on Super Bowl Sunday is because let's say you're a cop. Let's say you're captain of a precinct. And you're going to bust a bookmaking organization, which nowadays is pretty much a slap on the wrist. They give you what they call a KGB, which is a known gambler. And it's a smack on the wrist. I mean, God, Frank, we talked about this. They're advertising bookmaking sites on television during the games. I mean, it's incredible to me.
Yeah.
Because, we were clandestine. We had to be underground. I was afraid, of getting busted. They would have took everything we had with the RICO Act. So what we did was on Super Bowl Sunday, what happens is, it's a captain of a precinct, right? He says, okay, if I bust these bookmakers, let's say they took $40,000 worth of action one day. Well, on Super Bowl Sunday, you're going to take $200,000 worth of action. Everybody bets the Super Bowl. And then you get a guy like you, say you're a $100 bettor, you're going to call in and you're going to bet $100 for you, and you're going to bet another $1,000 for everybody that's around with you watching the game that want action on the game. You might be betting both sides of the game. Give me 500 on Dallas and give me another 700 on the Giants because you're just accommodating your guests. So everybody bets. So now, if you get busted on Super Bowl Sunday, they come in and they say, let's with the action times that by 365, and we just busted a $30 million a year operation. Because it makes Yeah, that's what they do. It makes great headlines.
Exactly.
It makes everybody know that the precinct is doing the best to keep the community safe from these blackguards, that are taking action. And so it was a nightmare. I mean, they're always afraid of getting busted on Super Sunday because some of our friends that were in the racket, they tell us over the years that that's when they got busted on Super Sunday. So what we did was one year we took the apartment, and Blinky, my partner Blinky, was always ahead of the curve. He said, here's what we'll do. We'll put 3 phones. We'll put our regular 3 phones in this apartment. We'll rent the apartment down the hall.
So what did Blinky do, Billy?
Well, what he did was we rented another apartment on the same floor as the apartment we were taking action in. And he put our regular 3 phones and call forwarded all 3 numbers to 3 phones that we were in the right apartment, into a new apartment with. And sure enough, that day, we were taking action at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We were taking action for about an hour, and we started hearing bam, bam, bam. So my other partner, Red, ran to the peephole looking out the apartment number. And sure enough, the cops were breaking in the door. And I got to tell you, they broke in that door, and all they found was 3 empty phones. And, oh, man, the invectives. You could hear the cursing coming through the doors. And, of course, we shut off all our phones for an hour until they left. But he saved our ass that day, man. I was talking before about the Bronx and the South Bronx. And,
this is you keeping it short, right? So going on to another story?
Yeah, it's a short story, though. But, the neighborhood that we worked in, English was a second language, pretty much, for most of the inhabitants of the South Bronx. And one time I pull up to this, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we pull up to this guy who's unconscious. We get a call. There's a guy unconscious. We pull up. There's got to be 40 people around him in a circle. So we break through the circle, and I'm lead man here for some reason. I'm going to take the initiative, and I feel his pulse, and I got to work on this guy, right? I got to give him mouth to mouth. So I'm about to give mouth to mouth, and I have a thought crosses my head. I look up at the crowd, and I say, hey, does anybody know this guy? One guy says, yeah, I know him. I says, does he have HIV? Because I got to put my mouth on this guy. I says, does he have HIV? He says, no, definitely not HIV. I said, okay, cool. I'm just about to put my mouth out, and the same guy yells out, I think he got Blue Cross. And at that point, I was about to say, you ain't going to make it, pal.
So, Derek, do you want to bring Hillary on?
Yes, I'll bring Hillary on right now.
On the bed and holding her there by force, bruising her neck and her
Hillary B. Smith, one life to live.
Stifle her cries of passion, or do you see them shoving a sweatband in her mouth so they don't have to listen to her screaming for help as they rape her? As they rape her.
And the Emmy for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Drama Series is Hillary B. Smith.
This is the best birthday present I've ever gotten.
Okay, so let me introduce our guest. Billy, you're going to love our guest. Our next guest is an Emmy Award-winning actress, but she's a real dame.
I think I'm on.
Hi.
Uh-oh.
Frank.
You know,
Well, she ain't hard on the eyes, Frank. I can tell you that. I like her already. She ain't hard on the eyes.
so why don't you bring on Hillary, Derek?
She's up.
There she is. How are you, Miss Hillary?
Hi, Frank. I have missed you.
It's been a long time. I still always pine for you.
Well, I'm telling you, if these lips could talk, I thought it was a book about our love affair. I had no idea there would be other.
Whoa!
Oh,
Yeah.
Look at this.
Such a
Derek, a little kiss and tell here.
I know. I love this. Look at Frank. He's blushing. I've never seen that before.
That's Billy O'Connor, who I wrote the book with.
Hi,
Hello.
And
Hello, Hillary. A pleasure to know you, girl.
Billy. Nice to meet you.
And Derek Harris is the guy in the lower right or lower left. Or I still don't know.
Oh, there he is. Hi, Derek.
Hi, how are you?
Good. I've got 2 Franks and 2 Bills, and Derek popped in a little bit, but that was it.
Yeah, so that's the way this operates. Sometimes 5 Billies and 1 Frank. I'm just talking to you, and I'm looking at you, and I'm happy to see you. That's for sure. How you been?
I've been well. You know, it's we've had a lot of togetherness, but I think everybody has. It's a good thing. It's a bad thing. It's just it's a new way of life, and I think we're doing all right.
Well, Billy, I'll tell you that Hillary is sort of like Margaret Dumont was with
with the Marx Brothers.
Her husband's name is Nip. Her son's name is Phip. Her last name is Smith, and she plays comedy like nobody else. But she's very patrician in her approach, and she's won an Emmy Award for soap operas. She's a producer now of The It Girl on the Stoop.
An Emmy Award-winning producer.
Oh, excuse me, because I never won.
Wow!
So you won one?
I did.
Why don't you tell us about it?
Well, it's a show called Venice, and it started with 2 characters. It's actually interesting. Procter & Gamble did a story on Guiding Light about a woman who gets a heart transplant from a man, and then ultimately feels very drawn to his wife. But Procter & Gamble would, right? It's a soap opera. But Procter & Gamble would never let them, touch or kiss or anything like that. And it was a buildup of a huge fan base around the world. And the 2 actresses, we took the 2 actresses and did a show called Venice, the series. Different characters, but the same actresses. Crystal Chappelle was one of them, and she produced this show called Venice, the series. And it took off. We've done 7 seasons, and we've been nominated for Emmys. I think it's won twice, 3 times, but I only once for producing. So.
Oh, excuse me. Only once for producing.
Only once. Only 1 Emmy. That's terrific.
Thank you.
So go ahead, Billy.
Okay, Frank, I'm sorry.
No, you got it.
Well, I was going to ask you, your milieu is basically, soap operas. You've done every major soap opera imaginable, for a number of years. And you're an old pro. I don't mean old in a derogatory way, but you're a pro. Do you ever get nervous when you switch milieus, when you go into a movie or something else, when you get out of your,
Well, I did everything backwards. I started on Broadway, and then I went and did regional theater at the Guthrie. And I started and then I did prime time before I did daytime. And I did a movie before I did had a hit series. Everything went kind of backwards. And I think it basically boils down, all the mediums have a different energy and a different level that you bring to it. But I think the only thing that I can say that was consistent for me was just bringing a joy of life to each medium. And that seemed to translate for me. That was the common denominator in everything, just a joy of life. But yeah, Broadway is different. You're playing to the second balcony, whereas in a film, it's all right here. So you're playing to someone who's sitting right there. And sitcoms are tough because not only do you have an audience, but you also have the cameras. So you have to find that happy medium, which I think we did on Something Wilder. That was so much fun.
We'll talk about Something Wilder in a little bit, but didn't you find that soap operas were difficult, the most difficult acting because you had to digest 35 pages of dialogue a day, and every day would be a new day?
When I was doing, when I first got on something on One Life to Live, I played a lawyer, and there was a big trial. It was a rape trial. And I had 60 to 80 pages of dialogue every single night. And you have to learn it because it's all trial work. So there's no conversation not when you're the one driving every question. So yeah, it was a lot. Memory is a muscle, use it or lose it. And that's what you just do. I mean, you found a routine. Everyone has a different routine to memorize lines. And my routine would be to break down the arcs and digest the conversations and then, be able to regurgitate them. But you got to have your lines down because there's so much else being thrown at you. And you really only have one take. They'll let you have 2 takes, but a light better fall on the set if you go to a 3rd take. You gotta get it.
Judd Nelson used to say when we gave him a line change, so much for subtext. He's trying to get the words in the right order.
Now, when you're memorizing 80 pages of dialogue, and it has to be precise. It has to be word for word, or does it occasionally?
It really does, because the directors. Now, remember, you're not the only one that's doing everything immediately. The directors, the camera, everyone. It's like shooting a play live. Only you have a safety net because you can go back. But the directors are cutting, and they count on you saying those words so they know where to take that cut. And the cameramen count on you saying those words so they know when they can move the camera in between cuts. They have shot cards that they follow.
Don Scarpino told us that if you wanted to kill a take, you had to curse.
Yes, pretty much. Like I said, if a light fell on the set, maybe they'd say cut. But other than that, they didn't have the time. You got to keep going.
So you were Nora on One Life to Live for 20 years, weren't you?
22 years, yeah. I was only going to do it for like 5. I was just, I was just going to do it for 5 years just to be home with the kids because I was constantly traveling. And I really loved the character. I got to create her. I really loved my castmates, Bobby Woods, Cassie DePaiva, Catherine Hick. I mean, it was just really fun. And then that was the one thing. We were a family, dysfunctional family, but a family nonetheless. And we just had a ball. You're in the trenches every day with people. And I love my cast. I love my crew. The staff was great. The writers were great. It was really a special time.
Well, you're spending as much time with this cast, over a number of years than you are with your family. They become family, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah. We still keep in touch, and we're all, we all care about each other and worry about each other. I have to say that after 22 years, I realized that I spent more time being Nora than I did being Hillary. And it was quite a change when Nora was kind of out of my life to sort of regroup and go, okay, maybe I need to figure out who I am and on a consistent basis.
Well, soap fans are very, very loyal, don't you think?
Yes, very. Very loyal. I have people that I keep in touch with to this day. And that's why Venice, the series, was such a success, because the fans from Guiding Light came over and to Venice and watched it, and then word spread, and then also the LBGT community. That was huge. That was worldwide, that came on board and created this very positive group of fans, very supportive of each other in chat rooms. Really a loving group of people. And I to this day, I could call a fan and say, I need help. And they would drop everything and go, because you're in their house for an hour every day. And also soap actors are very aware of their fans and very aware of the blessings of viewers. And so we're really good to the people that watch us in person and appreciative of them, and they're appreciative of us. So it's really a very lovely relationship.
So in the 22 years, who are some of the young actors that you helped groom to start?
Well, I don't know whether I helped groom them, but I came on with, she played Betsy. What's her name? Oh, come on. She was married to...
Senior moment.
I have to get
more. Derek, you got this to look forward to.
Yes, another one. I'm putting it down on my list.
Marissa Tomei had just come out of BU when she came on As the World Turns, so I worked with her. And
who's that?
Julianne Moore, Marissa Tomei, Julianne Moore, Finn Carter, Lindsay, girl who played. And I'm getting characters and stuff, but I'm missing the big one, which is Meg Ryan.
Oh, Meg Ryan, yeah.
Oh, Meg Ryan too, huh?
Hey, Derek.
And I heard George Clooney got started in soap operas. Do you think it's because
everybody did?
As you mentioned,
Jones was on One Life to Live. Ryan
really?
O'Neal. Yes, I mean, it's very interesting. A lot of people got their starts on on soap operas. It was a great gig. You could do your things at night and your soaps during the day.
Do you think it's because, as you mentioned before, that even with Broadway and movies, that you really had to stretch yourself more with soaps, that just stretches their talent and makes them better, and that's why so many have come out of there?
I think that if you were successful on a soap, you could pretty much be successful anywhere, because it really just, I don't know many stupid soap people. They're very smart. They understood all aspects of the medium, and I think that if you were successful on a soap opera, you could really be successful anywhere in the business.
And also, Hill, do you think that because you're on television every day, you're getting exposure, daily exposure to a lot of casting directors, and they, especially in the 80s and 90s, you could be discovered on soaps?
No, I would disagree with that. Soaps had a very bad context in the business because, they were always mocked about, being a soap actor and stuff like that. I think that technically you could walk away with a lot of knowledge, but you could also artistically walk away with some bad habits.
Where was the funniest place? I know you guys used to hide lines all over the set. Where did you hide your lines? 80 pages of dialogue.
I never hid my lines on the set. Oh, I'd have the script, and usually I'd tuck them, in between scenes. You sit there and you read the next scene and go, okay, and you'd tuck them in the sofa. There are times that you'd go to your set and you'd open up the desk drawer and it'd be filled with everybody else's scripts. Now, I knew an actor who used to tear out his lines and he'd put them around during his blocking. And when we'd have notes, I'd walk around and pick them up. It's like, if you're not looking at me, you're not listening to me, you're not going to remember your lines.
That's my Hillary. So when was the first time we worked? Did we work? Well, we worked twice, but Something Wilder first or Driving Miss Daisy?
Driving Miss Daisy first.
So, Billy, we did a show, which I think is still to this day the finest 30 minutes or 25 minutes or half an hour of television I ever did. Hillary played Florine. Bob Guillaume played Daisy. Played Hoke Coburn, and Joan Plowright, Dame Joan Plowright, who was
wow.
And
and Teresa Merritt, who just won a Tony, she was in it, and Saul Rubinek, yeah.
Booley.
It
was terrific.
Jessica Tandy played Daisy in the movie, right?
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Jessica Tandy played Daisy in the movie.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Fine production, too.
Billy's pardon Billy's connection. He's in Iceland, so...
he's almost in Iceland for sure.
Yeah, no, it was wonderful, and the producers were the same producers of the film. So, we had the band between scenes playing the music, and we had some of the cars. It was beautiful.
We told a story in the book that Alfred Uhry wrote the play and won a Pulitzer Prize. He teamed up with Dick Zanuck. They made a movie. They won an Academy Award. Those two teamed up with me and John Wells. We couldn't get the show on the air. That's how difficult a medium television is.
Well, you remember we shot it the night of the riots.
That's correct.
And I think that a kibosh, because I remember sitting in the audience next to two executives, and both of them were like, "This is never gonna hit the light of day." And I was like, "Why? It's fabulous." Well, no, it's just not racially the time to be doing this. I was like, "I think it's the perfect time." I was naive, but I was like, "I think this is our history. We have to be able to talk about our history and show it, and be able to look at it, with glasses from this day and age, our modern glasses." And so and then when we shot at the night of the riots, it was like, oh boy. But it did air.
It did air. It aired in August of 1992 or something. And when it aired, TV Guide gave it 9 stars out of 10.
Wow.
So if it had aired, I would have matched your Emmy. I would have given you something to shoot for.
I think that series would still be on the air today.
Was
I really do.
That good a show?
And it's interesting. It's interesting that when we wrote the chapter about Driving Miss Daisy, that Frank had mentioned that he thought it was the finest hour of television that he ever did.
Half hour.
It didn't get on the air, but do you think half hour? But he never mentioned the fact that Watts was going on at the time, and that might have influenced whether or not it made the air. So you think that was?
It wasn't Watts. It was the
Rodney King, probably.
the Can't We All Get Along?
Rodney King.
The
Rodney King rise. Oh.
Yeah, the police, the guys had just gotten acquitted, and that's what happened that night. Southeast Los Angeles just kind of
erupted.
Yeah, erupted. Exactly, it erupted. So from that standpoint, it just wasn't a good time, unfortunately.
And also, if we had done it today, they may have been more accepting of it. But everything had a laugh track then, with the exception of MASH, and even MASH had a laugh track, but it was played so low that you almost couldn't hear it.
Yeah.
The networks insisted on us putting a laugh track in it, and what we're saying is there were a lot of things that we were saying which were really, really appropriate to the times of the 50s, but they would put big laughs in it. And I think the laughs killed it, because without the laughs, today, if we made the show without the laughs, it would be sort of like a docudrama, or it'd be like a dramedy of sorts, and it would be much more accepting. What do you think?
I think it would have been allowed to resonate. I think everything that was happening would have been allowed to resonate instead of getting, laugh track, because it was amusing, but it was, just the scene between Joan and I, it just was very subtle. She's so subtle, and Robert Guillaume was so subtle. Just that one scene where, she's struggling with the pot on the stove, and, she won't let him. And then finally she goes, "Oh, okay, if you insist," and lets him carry the pot because it's too heavy for her. And then it's those wonderful little moments that they just fleshed out. Not to mention Joan Plowright what a riot. She was a riot. I loved
really?
Her. Yes. Very funny.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I never would have figured Joan Plowright to be like a cut-up. I never would have figured that.
Yeah, one of her good friends was Tracy Ullman, and she used to tell me Tracy Ullman stories. Like, I just had dinner with Tracy, and she told me these stories. It was so funny.
And Joan Plowright was married to Laurence Olivier.
Right.
That was another note for Joan. So then we worked on Something Wilder. I think Derek has a picture of you and Gene somewhere in his bag of tricks there. But what was Gene like for you?
Oh, he was the kindest, sweetest, most generous, gentle actor. He taught me so much. He would talk about, I see, you're going to pick it up there, and then you'll cut to this, and you'll do that. And I remember asking him, "How do you know how to do that?" He goes, "Oh, you must learn how to do that." He said, "You must help your editor out. You must understand where your cuts are, because that's going to help you as an actor." And to this day, that's where my eyes went, okay. And I started paying attention to that. He was lovely. He was real. he was very sensitive, and I think that he felt, he got. I think he got a little bruised by some of the things that happened, in the back room, which I wasn't privy to. But every now and then, Karen would kind of saddle up, going, "Go sit with Gene. He loves just to sit with you, so go sit with him. He needs a little smile."
Well, we had writer problems on Wilder, and I talked about it in the book. But I told a story in the book about the audience show, and Gene. We did the first show, and Gene called me over, and he said, "Frank," I said, "Yes, Gene." He looked at the audience and he said, "What are they doing here?" And he said, I said, "Well, the network seems to think they make the show funnier." And he said, "Gee, I've made some pretty funny movies without the audience." I said, "We got it."
Yeah. One of my favorite moments, though, was when we were doing the birthday show, and there were nothing but kids running around, animals and children, you know what they say.
Let me tell Billy what the premise of the show was. The premise of the show was a 55-year-old advertising executive in the Berkshires marries a 30-year-old woman, and they have twins. So the two twin boys are about the ages of 5, and it was a merry mix of Gene's trying to be an older father to the twins. So, and Hillary was the mother.
So they have this birthday party and whatnot. So they're just nothing but 5-year-olds running around, or 8-year-olds that look like 5-year-olds running around. And Gene comes out on the set, and we're getting ready to rehearse, and there were a whole bunch of kids, and all of a sudden the kids start to run away, except for this one little girl who just stands there, and she's looking straight up at Gene. And, Gene, he towers on, and he looked down, and he went, "Hello." And he just stared at him, and he goes, "Do you know who I am?" And she was like, he said, "Who am I?" She went, "Willy Wonka."
That's awesome.
"That's right. I'm Willy Wonka." And she was like, mother came over and got her, but she was just Willy Wonka.
Oh,
it was so cute.
Fantastic.
But even then, here he is years later, and he just embraced that little girl, and yes, that's who I am.
One time when we had a lot of guest stars, we had Marla Maples on, and we had what's the rocker, Alice Cooper.
Alice Cooper.
Cooper was on. And they were all terrific. And again, Gene sidles over me, and he goes, I said, "Yes, Gene." He says, "Why do we have these big guest stars on? I'd rather work with Margaret Dumont." What was the woman that was on the show?
I'll come up with it. She was great.
Yeah. He said, "I'd rather work with her." And I said, "Well, Gene, the network likes us to have stunts." And he looked at me and he says, "I thought I was the stunt." Again, I thought I was the stunt.
Except that I must say, Alice Cooper made me laugh. He'd walk on with his cane, and he'd do a golf swing, and then, "Yep, shot a 72 today."
Yep.
He loved it. He loved being there.
Yeah.
Really, it was just a really nice, wonderful. Jake Weber, who went on to do wonderful things, was so fabulous.
And Gregory Edson, who played the president in.
Yeah. Bad president.
Bad president.
Bad.
What show was that?
What?
What show was that? He was the bad president for the year.
Oh, that was the one with
24 hours.
Yeah.
24, yeah.
24.
See, that takes a little bit longer as we age.
You know what? I can still say lines from One Life to Live, but I can't remember yesterday. That's the problem.
That's it.
It's filled with unnecessary stuff.
Yeah.
Hillary, I know you were you were up for Diane English's show. It came down to you and
Susan Day.
Susan Murphy Brown?
No, not Susan Day. It was the show that Jay Thomas did after Murphy Brown, and he played Jack Stein, and Jay went in to Diane and he said, Diane, please cast Hillary. Susan Day is not funny. I beg of you, please cast Hillary. And she went with Susan Day. And after the first year of Susan Day on the show, they switched to another actress. It's funny how casting can be so subjective sometimes. Subjective.
You know what? I don't think she trusted herself. I don't think she trusted that her script was good enough not to have a name like Susan Day. And that's too bad because her script was really wonderful. It was a really wonderful pilot. It was one of the better pilots I'd read. And it was...
What I'm getting from this conversation between the two of you as a layman is basically it's almost like a football team. Every single thing has to go right or it ain't going to happen. Like a fireman, like we do, everybody has a position. If one guy screws up, there's so many things that could go wrong that one thing could screw it all up.
Yeah, basically.
So talking about something that isn't being screwed up, you are doing a new show now called The It Girls on the Stoop. And I want to show, Derek, I want you to show a little bit of it, a little clip of a trailer from the preview, but then I want to ask you about how that came about.
Okay.
Hey everybody, it's Crystal and Hillary.
The It Girls on the Stoop.
And we want you to go follow us on Facebook, and there you can watch all of the extended interviews from all of our fabulous guests. And go check out Porch Chat because we have a lot of fun behind the scenes that you're going to enjoy, I think.
As well as tips and anything else, right?
Basically us screwing up.
Yeah, a lot of behind the scenes.
Come check us out.
I don't screw up. All right, cut, for God's sake. We can't stay here all day.
So how did that change? I'm going to... You ran out of SAG benefits. So no matter... correct me if I'm wrong. You ran out of SAG benefits, and you basically created this show to get health benefits. Is that correct?
Well, what had happened was SAG and AFTRA merged their health plans, and they disenfranchised everyone over 55 who had taken early retirement and been guaranteed their health care for the rest of their life. Wow. So after being 2 years of retired, they told us in July, and we had to make X number of thousands of dollars by we had 13 weeks in which to do it, and it was hiatus. So they really left us high and dry. And so we had to go to the marketplace and find health care. And in that time, Crystal and I said, what are we doing? We have to create our own stuff. No one wants someone who's over 55 and they're not looking for me. So we had done this movie in Venice, the series. We did a scene with the two of us in the kitchen where I was teaching her how to cook, and basically we ended up getting drunk and passing out, but we did create some. And the fans loved it. They just loved that scene, and they wanted to do a cooking show. And then the next year, we produced a movie called 1 Million Happy Nows. Beautiful movie. And because we're also both in it, we would do production meetings at night after everyone left. We'd cut, and then we'd go and make a cocktail and go sit on the stoop outside the house we were shooting in. And we ended up talking like, a couple of it girls on the stoop, doing things stupid simple, not to be confused with stupid girls. We went on and on and on. And so I said, why don't we do It Girls on the Stoop and just do a cooking show? And she said, yeah, okay. So we got one person, Adriana Torres, who's brilliant. And she did all our cameras and our sound and edited. And it was just Crystal and myself and Adriana. And we would cook and laugh. Well, the first season, that was the trailer for the second season. The first season, the fans sent us shots that they wanted us to do. So we'd start every show out with a shot, and we'd end every show with a cocktail and our dinner. We'd do 3 shows a day. So it was really fun. And the first show we aired was actually the last show we shot, and we were so punchy, I ended up wetting my pants on camera. So if you go to Vimeo and just do It Girls on the Stoop Season 1, you'll see the first episode where we end up in hazmat suits with our clothes, putting them in the washing machine. And the fans loved it. Season 2, we did things a little tamer. We did things a little slower. We did yoga. And now season 3, we have to do Zoom. So we're trying this new thing, which is putting our Zoom, and we're taping our own prep and getting guests to tape their prep, and then we're putting it all together. And we'll see how it goes. Who knows?
That's same thing Billy and I are doing. We're used to being in the studio in Pasadena with really my garage, but we used to be in the studio and Derek's joining us, but we have to do Zoom now because or Skype, because everybody's got babies and grandbabies, and because of the COVID.
Yeah, and to tell you the truth,
we're back in production because SAG-AFTRA health plan has yet again changed things and has disenfranchised a whole bunch of people, including people who are over 65. Their residuals no longer count towards their health care and stuff. So that's why we decided we got to go back into production. We got to,
So, Hillary,
I have a question.
Okay, Derek.
Sorry. I just want to put Frank on the spot a bit. So you have a production. So you have a team of people that you work with for your...
No. She just said she has one person who does everything.
Oh, really?
And they make money. I want to ask how they make money because, Derek, we're not making a dime. How did you monetize this? Huh?
Well, we monetize it by raising the money, and we do that, on various social platforms of Indiegogo, things like that. We raise the money. We also sell perks. You can have dinner with me for $4,000. We do things like that. Phone calls. We'll do sign things. We sell memorabilia. We sell. We have a store, so we have aprons that we sign and sell. I mean, so we monetize it as best we can to raise the money to make the production. We're not stuffing our coffers. We're just trying to make the production and put it out there.
Make it nut. Make it nut.
Let me explain. Because no matter how long Hillary worked, or no matter how long I worked, eventually our union benefits are going to expire. So mine expired. Fortunately, I qualify for Medicare. So even though I'm working now, I can't. I'll just get Medicare. But for years, for 35 years, I collected DGA benefits as a director. For years, Hillary collected SAG-AFTRA and AFTRA benefits. Of course, those plans are great when you're in them, but I believe that, if there's 100,000 people in SAG, like 15% of them qualify for benefits. Right. Before, Hillary was always, first in the 15%. Now that she's on the outside, she's got to scrap for health.
Yeah, you got to scrap around and do what you can. I'm still on SAG. My husband and I are still, on it. It's a really good policy. I kept saying, why can't you just up the the ante, make it a little bit more expensive? I'd pay for it. I'd pay more for it just to not have to go to the open market and to keep the consistency. But we've had to change, you had to change doctors, you had to do all of that. So, then it used to be once you were on Medicare, the supplemental, all your supplemental was covered, and they just changed that too. So it's unfortunate.
That's wild.
Yeah, I think there's a big lawsuit, a class action suit too.
Well, I'm still fortunate. I'm still on DGA supplemental, so at least for a year or two, I got some credits for that.
Good.
Anyway, next for you.
Gosh, my golf game's getting pretty good at this point. I'm enjoying, and I'm about to be a grandmother.
Yes, I heard that.
Oh, wonderful!
Thank you.
That's awesome.
I had so much to do with it, and now I'm really looking forward to it. I really am. As a matter of fact, due date is 3 weeks from this day, and it's going to be another Roman numeral. So we're a little boy.
Yeah, these wasps name everybody after the same person. So this will be a number 5.
So Hillary, are you living in the Keys? Are you living in the Keys now?
I am. Yes.
What key are you living in?
Key Largo.
Oh, you're in Key Largo.
Yeah.
I was in Homestead for about a year or two, and I used to keep my boat in Key Largo.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah,
Where did your boat?
I used to keep my boat in a yard. I don't remember the name of the yard in Key Largo, but then I rented. What actually happened was when I first retired from the fire department, I sold the restaurant. I had a restaurant and bar, and I sold it. And I told my girlfriend, I said, let's get as far away from New York as possible. So we went down to Key West. And she was a teacher, so she started teaching English at Key West. So I said, this is beautiful. Get us an apartment. So she comes back and says, I found this beautiful apartment. She said, beautiful apartment. Price is right. I said, what key is it in? She said, Ramrod Key. I said, forget about it. There's no way I'm telling the guys in the firehouse that I'm retired and moved to Ramrod Key. I said, no matter what. I said, forget about the house. Forget about everything. So we ended up living in Key Largo. But I love the Keys. I absolutely love it. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's really, it's just quiet and it's active, and you're outside all the time. I'm just not a person who likes the cold. I never have.
It is Billy. It is Billy.
Oh, I hear you. I moved down to California.
Derek, can you show Hillary again the picture of where Billy lives?
Yes.
He lives in California.
An hour and a half, Hillary. An hour and a half from LA, but I'm 7,000 feet up in the mountains. And this is where I woke up to this morning.
Where are you?
He's not. She asked you where you are in Arrowhead, but no, he's in a place called Mountain Village.
Pine Mountain Club. Yeah, it's about 7,000 feet up. It's a beautiful spot in the summer, but if it wasn't for the COVID, I'd be in Florida right now. I'd be in the Keys right now. I love Key West. I love the Keys. I love the food. I love the fish sandwiches, the weather, everything about the Keys.
It's the best. Well, right now, this has been one of the most beautiful winters. It's not windy. It's 75 out during the day. It goes down to the high 50s at night, which is great. We sleep with everything wide open. It's just beautiful. It's just been a great.
You know what's funny? You know what's great about the Keys? And this, Frank, you'll love this. Naturally, I was drinking when I was in the Keys. It was one of the reasons I got out of the Keys, because it's, if you get down to Key West, it's all burnt out guys from the 60s. I mean, that's it. They're all roaming around there. Everybody's drinking. Everybody's wired up. I mean, and there's nothing to do but fish or drink. I mean, that's what they do in the Keys. But every bar you walk into, I swear to God, nobody's watching football games. Nobody's watching the news. All they got on is people in the north shoveling snow. It's like every bar you walk into, you see a picture of a guy digging out a 14-foot of snow in Minnesota.
That's right.
And then when you go to order breakfast, and of course you're from New York, everything's hot, hop. And you go to the breakfast place in the Keys, you say, let me have 2 eggs over easy, blah, blah, blah. Well, 15, 20 minutes later, you say, excuse me, waitress, where's my order? She goes, welcome to the Keys. That's it. Nobody's in a hurry. Get over yourself.
That's right.
Great place to live.
Yeah.
Great place to live.
It's nice. It's just really nice. So it's interesting. Key West is a little different now because the cruise ships are coming in. And when the cruise ships came in, the people would the town was getting a little trashed. So they'd come to drink, but they wouldn't eat. They'd go back to the boat to eat, and then they'd come back out to party. So they now have a curfew, and they shut everything down. They promote all day long, and then they send them back to the boat, and they'll be open for dinner, and then the town shuts down about 11 o'clock. That's it. Done. Go home.
Wow, it's so different. Yeah, to me, Duval Street and Key West was sort of like Bourbon Street in New Orleans. The only difference is in New Orleans, there's nothing else to do but drink. At least at 2 o'clock in the morning in Key West, they'd say, I'm going fishing in the morning. I got to get up. I'm going scuba diving. I'm doing this. But New Orleans, there's no shutting down because there's nothing to do in that town but drink. It's a 24-hour drinking town. But that's wonderful that you live down there. I envy you, especially now. You saw my outdoors.
I can't
I
believe
really
it.
envy you.
Don't be shoveling that stuff. It's dangerous.
How long have you been there?
We bought down here in I guess late 90s. And, we just we rent it out and we just kind of sneak down for a week or so or a couple of days, whatever. And about 3 years ago, I finally went, well, I can work from anywhere. I don't need to be in New York. And not only that, but you weren't going into casting director's office. You were putting yourself on tape. So about 5 years ago, I started coming down here more. And then 3 or 4 years ago, I became a Florida resident.
That's good for you. Good for you. And you bought it at 1990 prices.
Yeah.
And I what?
You bought it at 1990 prices.
Yes.
Real estate. So that's increased in value terrifically. Well, that's
and I have to tell you, just in the last year, it's gone through the roof because with COVID, I mean, it's amazing the people that have come down to the Keys because Monroe County, Bill, you'll probably remember right south of Homestead, it goes right into Monroe County, and they shut down. They put up a roadblock when COVID hit last spring. And you could not get in unless you were a resident of Monroe County. And they shut the hotels down and they shut the restaurants down, and that was it. You could not get in unless you were a resident.
Well, Hillary, I can definitely understand that because you're off the mainland and everybody, wants to get isolated. And it's the same thing all over the country. Like even in Pine Mountain Club where I am, I mean, I'm in the middle of a national forest, but I see people from LA up here all the time riding around looking for places because of COVID. They're trying to get out of LA. Same thing in New York. People upstate New York, people that own farms are multimillionaires now because of land. Everybody's getting out of Manhattan.
Yeah. And there were places in Maine that were sold sight unseen. They just want it out. Building is through the roof. You can't even get appliances if you're building a new house. You're 12 weeks, 14 weeks down the COVID distribution chain. Yeah, it's just they can't.
But they're building that much. They're building that much in the Keys, even with the limited space.
The Keys, not so much, but in Maine they are. The Keys, actually, Maine, okay. I take that back. They are building. What they did was after Hurricane Irma, and I may be mistaken, but my understanding is you were no longer allowed to have a mobile home. It had to have a motor in it so that when you were told to evacuate, you started your home and you drove it away. Because the mobile homes were just washed across the Keys and then it ended up in the bay. So they said no more of those. So people were looking for a little bit more permanent structures and also stilted, so water.
When I was living in the Keys, it was probably 11 years or 12 years after Andrew, and people were still talking about Andrew because I was in Homestead, and Andrew hit Homestead like.
Oh yeah, 93.
Crazy. Yeah. I mean, they were still talking about it 10 years later.
They're still talking about it now. Andrew went down. When Irma was bad, had Irma not jogged to the west the night before, it would have been another Andrew for us.
Well, I heard if Andrew was 20 miles north and it would have hit Miami, it would have did more damage money-wise than any hurricane we ever had, and that includes Katrina.
Yeah.
So that's crazy numbers. Crazy.
Yeah.
But it's you can always evacuate. You just want to get the hell out of there.
That's right.
So Hill, I would be remiss before we signed off if I didn't send you regards from Barry Halley.
I just got Barry Halley's Christmas card, which made me laugh because his hat, glasses, mask. You don't even know who it is.
I didn't even get one. Barry Halley's a gal that was an associate producer on one of the producers on Something Wilder, who I'm working with now at Warner Brothers. We're working together. We're really almost COVID police on stages, but we work out of our house, so it's a pretty good gig.
So that was the big thing, was that Frank and Barry and I felt like we were the Three Musketeers. I have a picture still of you sandwiched between Barry and I. I think it was the last night of production. We were so sad because we really loved that crew and that cast. It was so much fun. Anyway, Barry and I looked very similar to each other. And so we always were just good buds.
I was the meat of that sandwich.
You were the meat of the promotion, and you had it, baby.
Yeah.
The Earl of Sandwich. The Earl of Sandwich.
I was the Earl of Sandwich. Well, thanks so much for coming on.
Oh, I'm so glad to meet you, Billy, and you too, Derek.
Pleasure.
I know you're the brains behind the operation.
Well,
yeah.
Must be talking about.
Derek's the brains behind the operation, but the truth is the operation couldn't function without each of the three of us. We each bring something unique to the table, and today I was fortunate enough to bring Hillary Bailey Smith. So,
well, Frank, she gave us a great idea. We could start selling dinners with me for a warm can of beer.
No, I'm serious. You start monetizing. I mean, they've got the books there, but why don't you get some aprons, some hats with your logo on it, and
Hold up there.
Here we go.
Right,
here we go. There we go. See, now you need to start selling them.
Yeah, we'll make as much money on that as we're making on the book.
I just don't think people are gonna want to have dinner with me like they want to have dinner with you, Hillary. You're absolutely charming.
You're
great.
Right.
Thanks, Hill.
Well, I like the name of your show, A Mick, a Mook, and a Mike. I think that's great.
It was supposed to be Mooks and a Mike, but believe it or not, that was taken. I was satisfied. I was happy with two Mooks and a Mike because when Billy's wife Jennifer came up with a Mick, a Mook, and a Mike, that left me with being the Mook.
You can always be a Mick, but in your persuasion, ethnically, you might think that's worse. I don't know.
Yeah, that would be worse. All right, my dear. Do well. Give my love to Nip.
I certainly will. My love to Karen and Aaron and your grandbaby.
Yes, you betcha. We'll do that for sure. Thanks so much.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Hillary.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
So, Derek, pretty good guest, huh?
Great.
Pretty good, huh?
Oh, she was terrific. She's real affable, like you said. She's a dame. She's like, in the old days, when we used to call a woman a broad, it was a compliment. Like, Liz Taylor was known as a fine old broad, fine broad. And that was a compliment. Now you can't.
Yeah, that Hillary was a broad, a dame. She fit the description of, like Margaret Dumont. Margaret Dumont was Groucho Marx foil in all of the Marx Brothers movie. She played the staid old, patrician woman, but she was hilarious. And Hillary was.
Oh, yeah. The first line that comes to mind with Margaret Dumont is when she's hugging Groucho. She says, "Hold me closer, closer, closer." And Groucho says, "If I was any closer, I'd be behind you."
Yeah. So, Billy, now what do we got? A Super Bowl coming up.
Yeah, we do. The big game.
So
Kansas City and Tampa. I don't know.
I'm sure you've been poring over the charts all week.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the sure bet and go against you because I think I'm 11-4 or 12.
The guru. The guru.
I'm the guru. You are the not so guru. So who do you like this week, and why do you like him?
Well, you know me, I'm a dog better. I always bet the dogs, but I think this Kansas City team is too much. I think the quarterback. I think the kid's too much. I think he's the real deal, and I don't think Brady's mobile. So I'm going to go with the chalk. I'm going to lay the 3 points to take Kansas City. And in some venues, Frank, I've seen some guys out there with 3.5 already. So if you can get the 3, I would lay the 3. But the 3.5 could make a big difference. I mean, Brady and 3.5 is tough. What do you like?
Well, I sort of like Kansas City, but I'm going to bet on Tampa Bay because you pick Kansas City.
I couldn't pick my nose is what you're trying to tell me.
Going with the odds on this one, and the odds are you're wrong.
That's a pretty good bet.
By the way, hang on a second.
That's a pretty good bet he's got there, Derek. I couldn't pick a one-horse race. I couldn't pick a winner in a one-horse race.
I hope you're right because
look at that.
This is the cover of our next book. I don't think you can see it, but it's.
Bring it down.
Hang on a second. I got to move the chair.
Okay. Yeah.
It's called
Mars Gamble.
Mars Gamble. The story of the AFL-NFL merger. It's got all sorts of cloak and dagger stuff to it. It's a fine book, and it's about Lamar Hunt, who founded the AFL, which became the NFL.
And it's full of anecdotes about the merger and about why the teams became known as the teams they are, why are the Kansas City Chiefs the Chiefs, why are the Jets the Jets.
And it'll be out. It'll be out this summer. It'll be out in time for next season. So we have a rooting interest in Kansas City. That's for sure.
Without a doubt. It's the whole history of the Kansas City Chiefs. And if we had to put a subtitle on it, I would call it Nothing's on the Level. Nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
So it's an interesting book.
You guys bought a spot, an advertising spot for the book
on the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, we got an hour. We took a full hour of it.
So that's it.
Now that the money's pouring into a trickle, we took a whole hour of it.
Yes. Yeah. The book will be out in June in time for next football season. But it's already done. It's being printed. I'm looking forward to having a lot of you guys read it. But in the interim,
if these lips could talk, there they are.
There they are.
I love it, guys. So prolific. That's amazing.
And there's a chapter about something Wilder, which Hillary and you were talking about. There's a whole chapter about Gene Wilder in there that's illuminating and funny.
Illuminating. Wow.
Illuminating.
We're working on our vocabulary again, huh?
Maybe I'm worth 2 cans of warm beer. You know what I mean? Have dinner with me.
Well, yours. We'll offer off. The person can drink yours as well.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, next week you'll try to get me. I'll be in Tibet. One drink and I end up in Tibet.
Yeah, we don't want that. Anyway, we'll see you next week. Next week, our guest is the inimitable Charlie Steiner.
ESPN
and the Los Angeles Dodgers, voice of the Los Angeles Dodgers. So he'll be a great guest. So long, everybody. Thanks for joining and enjoy the Super Bowl.
Yeah, subscribe on YouTube or Facebook and watch at your leisure. A Mick, a Mook, and a Mike. And thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate the support.
Bye, everybody.
We'll see you next week.